The same old problems, I thought I solved them. Fell so far, I broke through the bottom. Wound up back at square one, losing a battle that I thought I.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Behind the Roots, the series where we talk to grassroots racers, get to know them. This week, we got Blake Lothian. He raced down at Southern National Motorsports Park, used to race Legends, been up the ranks from go-karts, everything. Now he's in late models. Blake, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Blake Lothian. I race number 59 for Kart Racing. Really glad to be here.
We're super glad to have you. And Ryan said we'll have you on. We just love talking to different grassroots racers. So I read your website. You started racing go-karts at 5. You won the league championship at F1 Boston in 2017, and you started racing F1 club racing in 2016. What is it from the go-kart road racing side of things that you could carry over into the oval asphalt side of things? It feels like they're polar opposites.
Yeah, they pretty much are. I kind of had to, going from road forced cycle karts going into the legend cars with full suspension, there wasn't really much I could carry over, honestly. I had to kind of completely relearn how to race. The only thing I really kind of could carry over was just learning how to set up a pass. Like usually in road racing, you have to set up a pass from a few laps before, just figure out the guy's weak spot, and then you just go for the move in that corner. But in oval, it's a little bit different, but at the same time, it's a little bit same. Like you see them slip up in one, you know that that's a good spot to make a move.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like go-kart racing and stuff. And if I could, I feel like they're just polar opposites. I feel like if I was good on go-karts, I'd be awful on asphalt ovals just because how, and like iRacing and stuff, there's just so different when you go and racing. But it says you won your 2017 NHK LO 206 senior championships. I have no idea what that means. Something with go-karting. But you got 8 wins, 2 second place finishes, and you went against adults with an age waiver. What was that like going against people that were so much older than you?
I mean, it was pretty cool. I mean, I was racing against 50-year-old men, and I was about, I think, 16, maybe 17 at the time. So I mean, that was pretty cool. I was able to beat them almost, I think, 9 out of 10 times. I pretty much beat them. So I mean, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool to just go and compete against them, and especially at a young age, compete, like you said, competing against, you said 50-year-old people. It definitely feels like an accomplishment. But in 2019, you joined Rev Racing, their Drive for Diversity program. You ran the summer shootout at Charlotte, an event that's gotten huge names go through there: Chase Elliott, Daniel Hemrick, William Byron when he was down at those levels. And you wrapped up the rookie season as the top 15 drivers. First, how was your time with Rev Racing?
With Rev, I mean, Rev was just a great opportunity for me. Great window to get into oval racing because I came from the roadside, and we genuinely didn't know how to break into oval racing. I knew I wanted to get to NASCAR, but I didn't know how to get into it. So luckily, we stumbled upon Rev Racing, applied, and ended up getting in that first year. But the first year in Legends, it was a little bit rough to say the least when we first started off. My first race got lapped about twice, but by the end of the year we started learning pretty quickly. By the end of the year, and ended up finishing top 15 in the points. So that was it was an interesting first year to say the least.
It sounds like you're a wheelman right off the bat, so I applaud you on that one. Like Josh said, I wish, I'm a big race fan. I wish I could race cars. Maybe someday if I win the lottery or something, I might find a way into a race car. But until then, I'm just on the behind the wall basically. But I'm a big fan of hypothetical questions, and I'm gonna grill you here for a sec. So here recently with NASCAR, there's been a lot of debate about teammates moving teammates for a win. So if you were in the position to get your first win in a NASCAR National Series and you had another teammate in front of you, would you move them for the win?
I gotta say I would. I mean, at the end of the race, you can go back to him and say, "Hey, you understand this is for my first win in NASCAR." Like, I feel like if you don't dump him or her, I feel like it's okay. I mean, just moving them off the track, that's fine, I mean, I'd expect the same if I was leading and my team was behind me. That's racing.
What if it's their first win too? How do you operate and how do you operate then?
I mean, it's racing. I mean, we're racers at heart, and we know we both want to race hard for a win. So I feel like at the end of the day, they know that. So
All right, that's good answer there. I'd be your teammate. That's that you passed the vibe check. So I see behind you got some trophies, and I'm assuming those are some that you've won, correct? Or did
yes.
you get them from the trophy store? It could be either two. I didn't want to assume anything, but I know you can win some races. All right, so out of those trophies behind you, which one is your favorite? I can't tell if it's over your that one right there. Is that from Charlotte or kind of
Yeah,
looks like a
this one's from the shootout when I got fifth place in the championship. Third place in the championship. That was definitely one of my favorite. Sorry, this is a third place in round 6 in the shootout. That one's definitely one of my favorites because it's the shape of the logo for Charlotte Motor Speedway. I think that's pretty cool one to have. And that race, I think that one was a crazy race. I ended up just driving my way through the field in that round and ended up finishing third. So I thought it was a pretty good round for me. And
over your time as a budding racer and each year getting older and wiser in the racing game, has there been a driver, not necessarily someone you know, but is there a driver that you look up to and you try to emulate the way they drive their car?
I have to say, Michael McDowell. I have to say, I mean, he came from the Rev Racing ranks as well as me, so I feel like just from his grassroots ways, me. So I looked over to him. He's patient, but he's also aggressive. I like how he's off the track. He's one of the nicest guys off the track that you can talk to. I remember meeting him at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, I think about 3-4 years ago. He was the nicest guy I've ever met. So down to earth, like you could just have a conversation with the nicest guy ever.
I've always been a low key Michael McDowell fan, and it's kind of nice to see him finally get his win just because he's a down to earth guy. He'll sit there and sign autographs for a while, and he'll find a way to make a fan's day. So it's great to see him get a win. But that's a good answer right there, Michael McDowell. I dig that.
Yeah, so we talked about Rev Racing a little earlier, obviously competing in ARCA and ARCA East with Raja Caruth, and then in Big ARCA with Nick Sanchez. And they've given a lot of opportunities to a lot of different people. You said you got the opportunity to race legend cars with them. And you look at the current state of NASCAR, they're known as the Drive for Diversity program. And currently in NASCAR, we have Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez, Jesse Awuji. And if you look at even like gender changes, you got Haley Deegan, Natalie Decker. You have a bunch of budding names coming up. How important is it in the sport of NASCAR to have so much diversity? And I feel like right now we have more diversity in the field than ever.
Yeah, I feel like it's extremely important to have diversity in a field. I mean, you have, say, casual fans tuning in on Sunday for the first time. Like, for instance, me. Like, I want to find someone that looks like me, someone who I can relate to. So, like, say I'm a new fan now looking, like, into the field, like, oh, Bubba Wallace, he looks kind of like me. So it's like, I feel like that's a very important thing to have new fans seeing people that look like them. So they have a reason to stay engaged in the sport.
Yeah, I always liked when not Bubba Wallace, Daniel Suarez walked around and he had Daniel's Amigos. And it was just like, it gave me soccer vibes because you go to a soccer game and you got the whole like the American side doing one chant, you got the Mexican side doing one chant, and then they're following him around with like a full like what's the word, mariachi band.
Yeah.
They got the drums and they're just following through. So I don't know. I agree with you. It's super important to have diversity in sport, and like you said, seeing people like look like you, it allows more fans to come in and watch and root for a guy. But let's go back to the racing side of things. This season, you're making your debut with Mike Darn Racing in the late models. I know you did a little testing at Hickory. You raced at Hickory this weekend. Didn't go as planned from what I've heard, but the team that you're racing for right now is the same team that Mason Diaz used to race for, and he's a ARC East driver now. Are Mason's achievements so far a benchmark for you to aim for in your first season with Mike Darn Racing?
Yeah, of course. I aim to be the best I possibly can be, but of course, you set realistic goals for the first season. So, like, of course, like the first race, it was to finish the race clean, try to stay on the lead lap. But of course, as you keep moving through the season, you try to set goals, but you also want to set goals that are reasonable, but also that stretch you, push you to go harder. But of course, the end goal is to make it up to ARCA this year, uh, to try to get ARCA at least, and then try to keep moving through the NASCAR ladder.
What's your strategy to get to ARCA? Do you have kind of like a master plan on how you plan to progress through the different stages of NASCAR? Or are you just kind of wheeling, dealing, and seeing what happens and what comes through the pipeline?
I mean, we have a plan, but at the same time, I mean, the sport's really relying on sponsors. So it's kind of like whenever we get the breakthrough with a big sponsor, I feel like we can move up to make that step to start testing with ARCA teams and stuff like that.
You have a teammate at Kart Racing, Andrew Grady, and he's well-known late model guy, very successful late model guy. What is it like having a teammate like that with so much experience? I'm going to say it again, going into your first year in a late model. What's it like having the experience right there with you? And you can ask a question, hey, the car's doing this. What do I need to change?
I mean, it's great, like what you said. Like you can go to him whenever you're like, I don't know what the car is feeling. Like I'll go to him and be like, hey, the car is pushing like this in the corner. What do we need to do? And I go over to Mike and he explains to me what changes we're going to make. Also, I mean, at Southern National, my first race, I ended up being able to follow him for about 3-4 laps in a practice session and being able to lean off of him, seeing what he was doing different than me, so I could end up learning more. But also, he's full of great stories, lots of advice for how to make it in late model.
So this past weekend at Hickory, or you lost power steering and ultimately blew up in practice. But before that, you've tested there a couple times and you got to put a few laps on the track this weekend. What was it like going out there and racing on such a, I guess, historic track? It's on the top of my bucket list to go to in the short track scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's crazy because I mean, it still feels crazy to me that I'm at this level in my career. Because I mean, I still go back to the local kart track that I used to grow up at. I go over there just still flag. It's just crazy to be able to be racing stock cars at Hickory. But yeah, we tested there about 2, maybe 3 times. The first time going across the crossover gate down into the track, you look up and it's just surreal. Seeing the stands all the way around in the front stretch, and then seeing the fan park in there along the back and everything. It's crazy especially knowing that so many big names have been racing there.
If you could give one piece of advice to an aspiring driver who basically be going or taking the steps that you've taken in the past, what's the one piece of advice you would give that kid to help them achieve their goal of becoming a NASCAR driver?
I mean, it's very I mean, everyone would probably say this, but just never give up. I mean, that's just how you keep going. You progress through the ladder. You can never let a bad day get into your head, like how I had at Hickory. Like, you can't let that get into your head. You have to be able to just have determination, and you never give up.
This kind of follows the lines of what Henry just asked. If you were to look at yourself back when you first started racing at 5 years old in your go-kart days, what would you tell yourself? It could be the same thing.
Oh my goodness. That's a hard one. I have to say, just get ready for a wild ride. I mean, it's been crazy making my way through the NASCAR ladder. It's been insane.
Yeah, well, it's awesome to see you progress. We've obviously talked about go-karts, legend cars, late models, and hopefully next time we talk to you, you're going to be in an ARCA deal, or shoot, go for Cup Series, late model to Cup Series in 2 years. If Josh Berry can go to the Xfinity Series, I think you can. So I want to appreciate you coming on. Thanks a lot for coming and talking to us. Where can we find you on social media, or where are you racing here in the coming future?
We're still working on the racing schedule. We're kind of going from race to race, but my Instagram is Blake_Lothian. Twitter is the same. My Facebook is Blake Lothian. I also have to give a huge thank to my sponsors: Post ABC Kids, Venture Wipes, Texas Law Book, Smith Lawn Care. Without them, I'd still be behind the wall. So
There we go. Nice plug.
Yeah, I love it.
Hey man, sponsors are key. That's why I'm drinking a Rowdy right now. You know, sponsors get you places. But Blake, thanks for coming out this week. Look forward to getting you on here real soon again.
of course, thank you guys.